Why do we exist as human beings? We need to answer this question immediately. There are forces at work right now that are planning to tear our species apart. They fully intend to turn us into a synthetic, silicon-based life form that is only partly organic. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean. I work together with an interdimensional, interuniversal force of nature and evolution known as Telstar. For over 30 years, we have helped thousands of people navigate the events on this planet so they can stay on a path of natural cosmic evolution. Okay, it's obvious that there are powerful forces acting on this planet to re-engineer human life into something entirely artificial. They literally plan to terraform this Earth into a dystopian landscape of artificial life. If we are not crystal clear about our natural human purpose and why we exist, then we will not have the strength to withstand this alien onslaught of our species. So let's talk for a moment about our true human purpose. And then I'll explain why modern spirituality is taking us down a dangerous path that is completely detached from reality. Now, to understand your true human purpose and why you are here, you have to be grounded in the reality that you live in. At the most fundamental level, we are physical beings on a physical planet. Our human selves and planet Earth are a perfect match for each other. This planet is perfectly designed to support our physical human bodies in every conceivable way. So you have to start there. It's called reality. And if you don't think it's reality, ask your body. Your body will tell you in every case that you live on a physical planet. And if you don't respect that, your body will eventually lose its sense of purpose. And you will feel that loss spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. As humans, we are meant to evolve through our physical presence. Evolution is our purpose. The idea is to eventually reach a state where we can serve as cosmic stewards of planetary evolution. Now let me explain why modern spirituality is taking us to a dangerous place that completely removes us from our higher evolutionary path. It is doing this by encouraging and increasing disassociation with the basic planetary reality that we live in. Now, I think the spiritual community is splitting into three main factions with overlapping beliefs. The first faction is what I call the Church of Downloads, Codes, and Random Channeling. The second is the Church of Fantasy Storytelling. And the third is what I call the Spiritual Technocrats. Now, I am fully aware that what I'm saying is highly controversial. So you can feel free to take this just as food for thought or just dismiss it altogether. That's entirely up to you. But I think there are certain things that need to be said so we don't all have to ignore the big elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the fact that since the 1980s, we have been promised magical, fantastical outcomes that never ever materialize. That's over 40 years, you guys. So I want to give some respect to the people who have noticed this, but are afraid to say anything lest they be deemed ignorant or unevolved. So let me explain what each of these factions are and why they are taking us to a dangerous place given the actuality of our situation. Let's start with the Church of Downloads, Codes, and Random Channelings. Now, I am obviously not against channeling. I have been a full body channel for many years. I was trained in the safe and proper way to do this by reputable professionals who had a long-term track record. But that's not what happens anymore. Nowadays, anybody and everybody can be deemed a channel just by saying things that sound spiritual. One of the things I've learned is this. There are countless discarnate and disembodied entities out there who are experts at masquerading as spiritual beings. They can be extremely convincing. They seek humans who are vulnerable and willing to be used as vessels for their influence because a person believes that channeling is high vibe and spiritual. These entities can tell any story at all. It doesn't have to be rational. As long as it sounds good, they know that these humans will accept it. Now, of course, there are good, legitimate channels, but these are relatively few compared to the legions of amateurs who have been encouraged to experiment because, once again, it sounds good. Now, let's talk about the daily dose of codes that we are told are being delivered to us every day by the sun and unseen forces. We are told that these are ascension codes or light codes. Supposedly, these codes are supposed to be ushering us into higher consciousness and the new earth. The great thing about these codes is that you don't have to do anything. They just come out of the sky and they land on you no matter what you're doing. And if you feel crummy or sick or depressed, it's fine because it just means that your body is adapting to the high vibe of these codes and the shift to 5D and the new earth, which as yet show zero sign of actually manifesting. And finally, we have the never-ending downloads. This is how people disassociate from their very own ideas and revelations. No one knows where these downloads come from, but that doesn't matter. As long as you call it a download, it sounds important and it gives you agreed upon authority. Everything I just described is incredibly passive and positions you more as a receptacle of energy rather than as an empowered creator. Okay, next we have the Church of Fantasy Storytelling. This is one of the most popular factions. There is no limit to the number of fantastic predictions and invisible outcomes that are promised again and again. And when those things never actually manifest, which they never do, it's handled in one of two ways. Either the goalpost will be moved to a later date, or you will be gaslit that it's already happening, even if you can't see it. I think the current favorites are 3i Atlas, the New Earth, and the shift to 5D. These stories shift and change daily. It doesn't matter what is actually happening here on Earth. That's irrelevant because the future of the new Earth is always bright. So if you are feeling confused or depressed, there is a feel-good story for you. You can get an instant dopamine hit and cling to another carrot of invisible hope delivered to you by someone in the spiritual community. Here's the problem with all of this, you guys. None of these stories are anchored in the reality of what is actually happening here on Earth. Instead, there is an increasing disassociation with reality, which is probably the real cause of why so many people are feeling depressed and confused. Here's why this is starting to alarm me. I'm starting to see instances online of spiritual people who say they are just waiting for their life to be over on this earth. They have lost all hope and are ready to leave. But that's what happens when you are endlessly gaslit about so much invisible awesomeness that never shows a single sign of being real. Eventually, you just give up because you lose all sense of purpose. For example, we are told by some that we are already on the new earth. It's just a matter of time before we see it. Or we're already in 5D consciousness. And if you feel terrible, it just means you're shifting and evolving. No matter how bad you feel or how confused you are, it's really because good things are happening behind the scenes. And you're just adapting to the invisible higher codes and frequencies. This is the spiritual faction that is becoming increasingly untethered to reality. If you are experiencing pain, confusion, or depression, they have a positive story that will give you the dopamine hit you are looking for. So now these feel-good stories are becoming increasingly addictive. And once a person latches onto one, you will never talk them out of it, because their belief in that story is their only hope. It's the only lifeline they believe they have. Now let's talk about the spiritual technocrats and why this faction is truly dangerous if you intend to stay on a path of natural evolution. This is the group who believes that our spiritual journey and evolution should be governed by science, technology, and mathematics. The problem with this theory is that our Earth-based science and technology are incredibly limited. They are no match for the intelligent reality of the entire universe, which is the natural driving force behind all evolution. And mathematics are entirely a product of duality. It's a product of the very state that we need to evolve out of. And most importantly, all of this is a very sterile point of view. This is the group who believes that the entire universe is a simulation comprised of computer code. It's just one gigantic video game that we are all here to master. Now, these are the people who are most given to merging with AI at some point. I mean, why not? If it's all just a simulation, then what difference does it make? In a simulation, everything is artificial, which thus makes humanity an artificial construct as well. At some point, their AI interactions will seem so real that they will just fold into that world like it's the next obvious evolutionary step. Now, there is a huge overlap between all three of these spiritual factions. And this creates a false impression of coherence because each one borrows ideas from the others. It all gets mixed together. The truth is that this is absolute chaos disguised as a spiritual path. Now, if you're still here watching, congratulations! It means you are not so easily triggered. It means that you are still able to listen without going off the deep end of instant reactivity. Now, I'm not saying that your presence here means that you agree with me. Maybe you don't agree with me, and that's fine. But at least you have a little food for thought if you ever get tired of waiting for the long-promised Holy Grail. The thing that all three of these factions have in common is that they encourage passivity. They encourage a belief that evolution happens from mysterious, unseen forces acting upon us from the outside. There is no longer a platform of reality that is shared by all, because reality can be whatever you decide it is, no matter how invisible and outlandish that might be. Now let's talk about the actual reality that we live in, which is physical, no matter how much you might wish it to be otherwise. If you truly want to evolve, you have to start there because this is where we are. So let's think about something that is really very important. For the past 5 years since the pandemic, things have continued to radically change. We are living through a lot of collective trauma that started with the pandemic. The old world is collapsing, but it's not collapsing on its own. It is being deliberately collapsed to make way for an AI-controlled society. This collapse has nothing to do with a new Earth fantasy world. It's the result of a strategic plan by nefarious forces who want to control the Earth and every living being on it. And we know this because it's out in the open. It's not a secret anymore. So we are basically living through a rolling collapse of our civilization. The most important thing that we can do for ourselves is to become very good at navigating this situation in a way that preserves our sovereignty and our natural ability to evolve. The problem with turning to a spiritual fantasy world is that you have to psychically disassociate from physical reality. This puts you in a precarious position where you will be shocked and unprepared when actual reality catches up to you, which it eventually will. I have already seen this starting to happen to some people who now find themselves in a state of despair because these promised realities never happen. I heard someone just the other day say that 3i Atlas is their last and only hope. So here's what you need to remember. We are multidimensional beings who have barely tapped into our true power to create and evolve. There is so much that we can be doing right now that is fundamentally rewarding and empowering to each of us as individual sovereign creators. But it requires a conscious connection to the totality of our existence. Ask yourself this question: how much of your consciousness and energy have you invested in stories and things that you've heard but cannot see evidence of for yourself? How much of your energy is invested in waiting for the next promised reality to magically manifest when such things have never come to pass? Whatever your energy assessment is, if you are investing it in internet hearsay and stories you've heard, then it's not being directly and consciously invested in your own evolution. So I invite you to reassess and make a conscious choice. Don't wait to be caught off guard when the next unpredictable thing happens. Instead, set some boundaries with how you invest your energy. There is so much potential within you. The most exciting journey of evolution starts when you commit to your own well-being and take positive responsibility for your life going forward. Your time on this planet is precious. You carry so many gifts within you that are just waiting to be explored. And there is an abundance of support in this universe when you align with reality. Now, I have a question for you guys. What are your plans for 2026? Are you going to be waiting for the new Earth to appear? Or are you going to come into conscious coherence with yourself as a creator? Are you going to focus on empowering yourself so that you can navigate the world's events with strength and certainty? Let me know in the comments. And if you intend to live in full command of your journey in the cosmos, then give this video a thumbs up to anchor your intention. Now, if you want to continue on this journey with me, then be sure to subscribe. I will have much more guidance to offer as we go forward together on this great cosmic adventure. And with that, I'm sending you love, light, and high vibrational energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends, and I will see you in the next video. Namaste.